Welcome to Mastery in the Making, a fresh new podcast by Le Cordon Bleu Australia. Join us as we deep dive into the minds of industry experts, entrepreneurs, and the voices of Le Cordon Bleu, the world's leading education provider in culinary arts and hospitality management. From expert lecturers to our incredible students and alumni, we'll uncover the secrets, stories, and skills that make this industry a world of endless possibilities. So, if you're a seasoned chef, aspiring hotelier, or simply want to keep your finger on the pulse, consider this your ultimate guide to culinary and business innovation. I'm your host, Stephanie Valudos, and welcome to Mastery in the Making. Today, we're going to get some really great insight into what employers look for in the perfect employee and how to truly succeed in this fast-paced industry. And to help me tackle this topic is an award-winning pastry chef of more than 20 years. Russell Le Comte has found great success working in New Zealand and Australia and is currently the executive pastry chef at South Australia's premier entertainment destination, SkyCity. Hello, Russell, and welcome to the show. So where did you do your training?
In a place called UCOL in New Zealand.
Okay.
All the lecturers are ex-army. So New Zealand Army used to have a catering corps which had everything. They'd do all the buffets, the showpieces, the ice carving, margarine. When the Queen came over, they were the ones who catered for it. All that stuff. It's all gone now. So all the lecturers were ex-army.
Wow.
So we got treated like we were army
in the army.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That would have been an experience and a half.
Lining up outside class for uniform inspection, checking buttons, checking neckties, checking shoe polish. No. And then when I went back, did pastry, there was a guy next to me going into the cookery while I was doing pastry. He was wearing tennis shoes. His jacket had literally just come out of his backpack. It was like crumpled. He was running in there and looking and going, my lecturer would actually probably just like physically turn you around and walk you back.
Oh my goodness.
Well, they were good. Like if you didn't know how to use an iron, they actually taught you how to use an iron and stuff. They weren't particularly mean, but they were just strict.
Yeah.
But that's how they wanted it to be. So
and that's probably why you are the way you are today.
Yeah. Very few of us survived. It was a 6-month course. They did the year trade school course in 6 months full time because they're like, we're not getting you in part time for a year. It's just going to waste your time. But yeah, it was 6 months. I think it was a 80% dropout rate. Yeah. Like I was me and
you and a couple of others were there left standing.
Me and one mate who works in Melbourne, I think are the only ones. Oh, there's one other. There's 3 of us from our class we know of who actually are still chefs.
Wow.
Just 3 out of 120 students.
That's crazy.
So, but a lot of people.
Here you are today.
Yeah. We weeded out the people who weren't passionate about it.
Not cut out for it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. My goodness. Times have certainly changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't do things in the kitchen like they used to. But I say that, but I haven't really seen the things people, like I got mates who went to London and like did London like the 90s and like the stories they told. I'm like, some of that stuff had changed. But even then, what we have got to now is so much different to where it was when I started. So which in a lot of ways it's good.
Yeah. So. That's intense.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I started my career in a place which you walked in the job and that job told you first day was, I'll replace you by dinner service if you don't perform. So you'll be fired at lunch and I'll have replaced you by this afternoon.
Yeah.
That was the first day. Wow. And that's how quickly they went through people.
And how quickly you must have learned about the industry and what's in store for you. Yeah. Amazing. Okay. Well, let's go back a little bit.
Start at the start.
So your career has taken you many places over 20 odd years. What's been your favorite job so far and why?
I am enjoying where I am. I'll start there. But the first place I really, really actually did really nice food was a place called Millbrook in Queenstown. So I'd moved down to Queenstown when I was like 18, worked in a business hotel. It wasn't great, but a job came up. And so it's a golf resort. It has like private residences. It's hosted like presidents. It's hosted CIA meetings. It's hosted like generals who just went there to play golf and like all these sort of crazy events. It was amazing. It's in the middle of the ski field area, so you can see the ski fields.
Awesome.
I used to live in like the little townships. I'd walk down to work, walk through the snow during winter. But yeah, like the chefs were passionate. We had really good food. The kitchens were nice. Like my hometown, the kitchens weren't exactly like 5-star in any way. But this place had like a production kitchen, which is the first time I'd seen a production kitchen. First time I'd seen an actual pastry bakery kitchen. And the outlets, we did like pizzas in one, we did fine dining in another, and it was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful place.
And you were 18 at the time, so that was pretty much one of your first jobs?
Yeah, pretty much my first real, well, I had a few kitchen hand jobs before that, but it was my first real chef job. And it was the first job where I was treated like a chef. Like I had to show up, I had to be on time, properly on time, cooking food, which we wasn't going to go straight into the bin or serve to staff. And we had clients flying in on helicopters for weddings, and like it was really, really nice. And I'd never seen that before. Like the kitchen head jobs I had, we were in carveries and roast restaurants and places making pizzas out of like bought in pizza packet dough. And so this place we were making things from scratch and we were doing like proper fine dining.
Yeah.
And we had a dinner with Charlie Trotter from like the 90s and like 3 Michelin star guy from the US. And I'm like, this is crazy.
This is big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen it before.
Wow.
Never. So I was glad I worked there. It really was.
Amazing. Did you always know that you wanted to be a chef, in particular a pastry chef?
Probably not. I think I had a few other things I wanted to do in going out of high school. I wasn't particularly great at high school. I was okay. But yeah, it wasn't enough to like have a career direction. But then I started seeing like when I was finishing high school, Gordon Ramsay's Boiling Point was on TV, and I was just getting interested into food. Like I was baking at home, helping with dinner, stuff like that, which I thought, it's just stuff to do. But then this show came on, I looked at it and gone, this is kind of cool. I like what he's doing. It sounds like it's interesting. And I started getting a bit more involved in it. I originally wanted to own my own restaurant. So I only learned pastry because none of my head chefs could actually do pastry. Like they were the people who would scramble brulees and like make a cake, which you could only use as a doorstop. So I didn't want to be that head chef. So I learned pastry. And then eventually I realized I actually liked pastry more than I liked restaurants. A lot of it has to do with deep fries and not wanting to smell like a deep fryer or having burns from a deep fryer. Ironically, I've done a lot of donuts after that. But, but yeah, it's probably I had worked in a place when I first came to Melbourne, and I was still looking at like culinary sort of side. And I get in this place, I learned a lot, but I looked at it and gone, I'm really not enjoying this anymore. I'd rather jump around the corner on the pastry section and do pastry. And I sort of decided after that, I'm just going to go just do pastry now and see what happens.
Yeah. And I know you've won some pretty special awards over the years, but what would you say your biggest career highlight has been to date?
I'm quite proud of I won a state chocolate grand champion award at the Royal Show this year. I wouldn't consider myself a chocolatier. I was really surprised. It was something I'd entered in it's called the out the box category. So it was not supposed to be a bonbon or a truffle. It was supposed to be something different. And I just had a random idea and gone, I'm just going to think this is crazy. And it won grand champion.
Wow. What was the creation?
We did a chocolate bar in a icy pole mold. So that is ones your mum would make and fill with orange juice and put in the freezer.
Yes.
So we got one of those and we colored it. We put the chocolate inside and we used the stick as the plastic stick as the handle. So when you pulled it out, it was a chocolate bar and you could eat it like that.
Amazing.
And we were like, this is crazy. Everyone's going to look at this and laugh. And they went, no, actually, this is the highest marks out of the whole show. You've just won grand champion.
Wow.
So I sent my sous chef and one of my younger commie chefs to the judging because I was away. And they went in there and a couple of people were like, who are these people? What are they doing here? And they got up on stage and they're holding the banner going like this as they walk down. It's like, they sent me a video and I was like, yeah, it's a good moment.
So number one highlight.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. I've done some few competitions. I did Savor Pastry Chef of the Year a couple of years back. A few years ago now. They've stopped doing it, unfortunately. That was amazing. I love doing it. I was so not ready for it. I was so prepared.
Oh, no.
I had so many people going, you're not in the right, like I was in a restaurant, you're not in the right environment to get the support for this. You're not going to have enough time. And I'm like, yeah, I'll try it. I'm like, no, they were right. They were really right. I came 5th out of 25 people in the plated and then like 22nd out of everyone for the rest of it. I was not ready for it. But they were all working shops. One of them was a sous chef at Crown Casino, and that's all he did was like cakes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun, but not really successful.
Yeah, right. Okay. And talk to me a bit about what you're doing now at the moment here in Adelaide.
So at Adelaide, I work at the casino. We run pastry production. So it's quite a multifaceted sort of production. We have a bakery, we do croissants, we do breads, we do a la carte prep, the bulk prep for the restaurants, like the cheesecakes, the brulees and things, and they garnish them. It's more production than a la carte. And then we have amenities for the hotel, and we also do a lot of the function prep. So we do it, and then we do events like plated dinners, buffets, canapes. Obviously, it's Christmas now, so we're doing a lot of end of year functions, corporate awards, and things like that for functions. It's really a lot of things going on, a lot of different things going on at once, and a lot of projects going on at once. So it keeps me quite busy. It can be a bit challenging because the kitchen's quite large. There's a lot of things going on. I have to be in a lot of places at once, which can be a bit of a stretch. But yeah, the casino, I've worked in a couple of casinos now, and this one is the first time where I've run everything in one kitchen. Usually they break it up a lot more. So it was a bit more of a challenge to sort of get my head around it. But it's quite a food-focused business, which is nice. Where a lot of the casinos are like, well, as long as there's food, we don't care. This place is like, well, no, we have food. South Australia is this amazing place for produce and wines and spirits and all these things, and we want to showcase this.
Absolutely.
So they're really, really pushing. SkyCity Auckland, our sister place, is the same. They have a big focus on the food and the food and beverage side of the business. So that's translated over here to Adelaide as well.
And you've got some Le Cordon Bleu students also working for you as well. How's that all going?
We got 4. It's the first time we've had 4 of them. Yeah, it's been good. It's been really good having the students, especially around this sort of time of year.
They're really seeing all the different things that are going on and really discovering what it's like to be in the industry. Yeah,
they definitely are. And it's probably one of the few places in Adelaide where they can see more than just like a restaurant side of things or a cake shop or a patisserie. They get to see a lot of what's going on at the casino. So
yeah, what are they actually doing there in the kitchens?
So they kind of split up. We usually put them into the a la carte production. So they learn the restaurant side of things where we produce all, as I said, brulees and mousses and all the bits and pieces and garnishes. Or they work a shift in Central Cafe where they make cakes and slices and muffins. Or they work a bakery shift where they finish croissants and make cookies and do a little bit of the bread work and stuff like that to give us a hand. They do a lot of they don't like it always, but they do a lot of the bulk work, which unfortunately is most of our job is bulk items. But they do get to see a few of the plated functions and cocktails and some of the more finer sort of things as well, which I think they quite enjoy.
Yeah, amazing. How do you think the work integrated learning program sets these students up for success once they graduate?
I think it's, especially the industry now, it's an all-in thing. Our labour market has become so tight that we don't necessarily have 4 to 6 weeks or even longer to train someone. They kind of need to get their feet in 2 weeks. And this sort of 6 months, they get to do that. And it means that I'm sending them off to somewhere else where they don't have to walk in and get told, this is the recycling bin, this is how you wash your hands, this is how you put like apron on or something silly. That's already been given to them. And for me personally, I didn't have that when I left my trade school because we went straight into the industry. I moved towns. It was crazy. The first 2 weeks was horrible. But it's really, really gives them an in-depth understanding of, how do I work in a kitchen? How do I work with someone else? How do I interact with the people around me? And then just even the basics like, do I come in and say hi? Who do I say hi to? How do I deal with the situation when someone might not be particularly friendly with me? It's really instilling the life skills of hospitality rather than the technical side. And that's kind of, I think personally, it's really important because you're going to get into kitchens and not all of them are going to be very friendly and you're going to have to deal with it, unfortunately. So you might get really lucky and work for me, who's hopefully relatively nice, but you might work in somewhere where this place is really good and you can learn a lot, but you need to be able to deal with that very quickly. Otherwise, you're just not going to have a fun time.
Yeah, okay. From your experience with students, whether they're Le Cordon Bleu students or not, when they walk into the doors for the first time, they're timid, they're shy, they're not really sure what's going on. What are they like when they finish? When they finish those 6 months of work placement?
Well, with us in previous groups, we've hired a bunch of them straight off as casuals and then put them straight on to full time after Christmas. Most of them, from my point of view, are hireable by the end of it. They know my kitchen. They know how we do things. I don't have to retrain someone to do the basic jobs, but I also can give them a job reference. They can go somewhere else and they can go, well, I know this person has the technical skills because you've already learnt that. Le Cordon Bleu students already have that under their belt before they get here. But I also now know that I'm going to send someone off to a kitchen where they're not going to walk in and accidentally cut themselves on something silly, or they're going to make decisions which benefit the business, and they're not going to end up losing their jobs because they don't understand what's going on. And it reflects on us because they're coming from us. I can give them a reference, and we know that they can do the job. And if we can, we employ them where we've got positions available. So.
Earlier this year, the hospitality industry in Australia was facing a serious shortage of skilled workers, particularly chefs. Is this still the case several months later?
I think it is. Pastry especially. Adelaide is a bit of a different story. There's not a lot of pastry knowledge in Adelaide, but students tend to fill in all that. The market hasn't really rebounded. Like, working the last 20 years, most of my kitchens were Koreans, then the Nepalese, and all the foreign, the French guys, and German and Belgium. I haven't worked with any of the people coming in on work visas in 3 years. Most of the ones when I left Melbourne who were on those sort of visas left, and I know they've not come back because I keep in touch with a few of them. The job market now is sort of, we have what we have, and we have to train what we have to keep doing what we want to do. We've been very successful as an industry, I think, to keep going after basically losing what is essentially 50% of our skilled workforce.
Wow. That's a lot.
Well, most restaurants, I think, in Melbourne struggled to reopen because we unfortunately had to get rid of all the people. Had to go home. There was no real option to do anything. And I know Melbourne friends still struggle to find staff. A lot of the chefs I know who I work with are now in other industries or have chosen sidestepped the industry, kind of. They're still doing hospitality, but it's a very different role. I have friends who work for very expensive schools in Melbourne in the doing catering. It's Monday to Friday. They have families. So the industry kind of has to change now, I guess. And it's kind of, we have to take what we have and make it something. And Adelaide still is. Adelaide, coming here from Melbourne, seeing what lockdown in Melbourne was like to the industry, Adelaide rebounded really well. The restaurants at the casino are still doing really, really well, consistently, have been consistent. I think during COVID, our average spend and average turnover in the restaurant was still higher than before COVID.
Wow.
This was with like dining restrictions and everything. So I think the industry here in South Australia really hasn't lost a lot. I think it struggled for a bit to get back on its feet, but it hasn't lost a lot. Not like Melbourne and, well, even New Zealand and other places. They're just not coming back as quickly because that labour is just not there.
Yeah. Wow. As a member of the SkyCity family, what are some of the skills or attributes the business looks for when hiring the perfect employee?
Well, we look for basic skills. Obviously, we look at what trade school they went to, where they've worked and things like that. But I tend to hire in personality. It can infuriate me a little bit because I've hired a few people who occasionally have taken a bit of time, but we've taken the time, and they're now people who we couldn't do without. We've taken on chefs to be pastry chefs to do different roles because they wanted to do it. And that's more, that sort of sentence is what I look for, is they want to do this. It's not always the most glamorous job. There is a lot of fun. We can do a lot of awesome things, but yeah, you got to want to do it. It's got to be a passion for it. With that passion comes, the rewards from doing it. But yeah, I tend to try to talk to people who are going to fit in personality wise. Somehow I've ended up with some beautiful people in my team, but we all are very passionate. that doesn't always work out so well. There's a lot of interpersonal to make sure that we are working, but they're the sort of people, even though they might argue, they're like brothers and sisters. They might argue and give each other a bit of grief, but they'll be there when you need to hide a body or make something happen last minute.
Like one big family.
Yeah, they very much are. And SkyCity on a whole is very much that. Like, you can turn to anyone in the business and go, I need a hand, or can you help me with this? And they'll point in the right direction. You get lost walking through the offices, you can go, help. And then someone goes, oh, it's just over there. Let me take you over there and show you.
Yeah.
And not a lot of hospitality businesses are like that. Not to that point. Not to the point where it's like, you can go and have a chat with someone in the office because you're having a really bad day and they'll help you out, or hey, this is how you do this, or you can email someone and ask, I don't know how to do this. Can you show me? And they'll take the time to do it.
Yeah.
And it makes it a really, really good place to work. So
what would be your best advice for someone who's looking for a job? They've graduated from school. Best way to prepare yourself for entering the workforce?
An internship, if you can find some sort of thing to do. It's more that, or even if it's a place you really, really want to work in, if they can't offer you straight away, maybe if you've got something else you can do a day a week, go in and, you've already, when they have a position available, you're already a step ahead because you've done a couple of hours, you know what the kitchen looks like, they don't have to retrain you where everything is on the spot. It can be quite hard to get into some places when you're starting out, but even just asking. I did a few places when I started out, and I just worked for a day. Even places where I've tried to get into, I've offered to work for a little bit for free. No, it's not always the easiest to do.
Yeah,
it's probably easier when you're starting out than it is later on. But just getting your foot in the door and just go. They may not be keen because you've only just started, but you go, hey, I'm really keen. I'll just wash some dishes. Can I help out? And usually most hospitality places are like, yeah, sure, come in.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you find a good place where they'll go, yeah, come over here and I'll show you this. And, oh, you're doing a really good job with that. Can I get you to give me a hand with this? Just not really, really not giving up. And I always tell the pastry guys that when you're starting out, you want a variety of stuff. If you already want to do chocolates and croissants, try to learn a little bit of bread work, try to get a bit of other items in.
Don't just focus on the one
thing. Don't monotask. Like the places that have been very successful pastry-wise, like Lune Croissant, she wasn't a pastry chef. She was a race car engineer.
Oh, wow.
But she went out, she worked in Paris, she worked in a whole bunch of places, and she learned and brought people in who could give her different things. And it's been successful because it's not just you focusing on trying to do something successful. It's someone going, this works, this doesn't work. Let's try something else. Let's add this in. It's not getting stuck into a little groove.
Because it's experimenting.
COVID taught us, for a lot of us, that you can't just monotask. You can't be a croissant maker because no one wants to buy it. I was frying chicken during COVID and making kosher cakes for one place. It's those skills which keep you employed. And the industry will change. So we will all need to keep developing those ideas.
Beautiful. Well, that's all we have time for. So thank you, Russell, for inspiring our students, the hospitality industry. We're very lucky to have you. So yeah, your words, I'm sure, will resonate with lots of students who are coming through our doors. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Mastery in the Making. If you found this discussion interesting and inspiring, don't forget to share, subscribe, or tell a friend. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.